There has been an awakening. Have you felt it? The dark side and the light.
Sorry. Yeah, that's about all I can play for you guys because I don't want to get a copyright strike or anything from John Williams or George Lucas or Disney or whoever. Hey, what's up, Slunts? Joker here. Today I've got some amazing news for you guys concerning Star Wars Battlefront with some single-player and multiplayer details. Now, I want to say right away before we go ahead and jump into anything that all of this that I'm going to be saying today is rumors. However, I'd like to say that it is substantiated by MakingStarWars.net, which if you've been following during the development of the Force Awakens at all in the new trilogy, they have been proven to be a pretty reputable website when it comes to rumors and leaks. So much, in fact, that in this past week, J.J. Abrams actually approached Disney and asked them to move up the release schedule for The Force Awakens to this summer rather than December. And a lot of people have speculated that is because so many of the leaks and rumors about the plot have actually been pretty much dead-on accurate as regarding to the film. Now, I haven't paid attention to these too much because I don't want any spoilers for the film, and nothing really in what I'm going to be telling you today is really too much spoilerish. As someone that doesn't like spoilers myself, I didn't find any of this information to be too alarming or spoilerish, but if you're a little bit squeamish at all about any spoilers or information about the game, then go ahead and turn the video off now. But I'd appreciate it if you didn't. Alright, so to start off, let's talk about the campaign first off in Star Wars Battlefront. There is multiplayer details as well, but first we're going to go ahead and talk about the campaign. The plot for the campaign is said to span the entire saga. Now that's, the original trilogy as well as the new trilogy and possibly some parts of the Force Awakens as well. I'll touch on that in just a moment. But most of the game is meant to take place during the original trilogy, which I'm really, really happy about because that's really something I haven't seen tackled too much in games. I know it's been touched on a little bit in some of the older titles, but it's really been a while since we've had a proper game set within the original trilogy, and that's my favorite, part of it is, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi are my two favorite Star Wars films, with Empire Strikes Back definitely being my favorite. Actually, I'd like to propose that to you now. What is your favorite Star Wars film? I'm curious. Let me know down in the comments below, and also tell me why. Why is it your favorite Star Wars film? Maybe you actually love the new trilogy. I'm not a particularly big fan of it. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I love Empire Strikes Back. That's my favorite. So let me know down in the comments below which one is yours and why. Now, these rumors have also said that some of the story will take place between the events of Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, as well as wrapping up right around the beginning and during The Force Awakens, so that it should tie the game's plot together very well with the film that's said to be coming out later this year. Whether that's going to be, December, or if they're actually going to get it moved up into the summer, it remains to be seen. But it's going to tie those together nicely, which, would make sense, being that the timing of the game is coming right along with the film as well. Even though they're not really a direct tie-in, I wouldn't call this a movie tie-in video game, really. I think it's really just a Battlefront game, and the timing just happens to be impeccable. And, I'm sure they timed it that way for a reason and pushed for this game to come out, but I don't see it as really a movie tie-in game specifically. But it's going to be nice to see it get blended in with The Force Awakens, so that we'll have a little bit of something just to whet our palate before The Force Awakens comes out, if the game actually, comes out in October and the movie comes out in December as it was originally planned to. Now, they're also stating that the campaign for the game is actually going to be quite lengthy. They're saying it's going to be longer than what most shooter campaigns are. Now, I don't know what that exactly implies. I guess most campaigns for shooters are probably around 6 to 10 hours long, mostly around the 8-hour mark for average, I would say. And they're saying it's going to be longer than that. How much longer, remains to be seen. I'm hoping for a good solid 15 to 20-hour campaign that'll be quite lengthy. And I would expect that to actually be the case, because they're also saying that in this game, you're going to be playing as 5 factions, not just 4 like we saw in previous games. And the 5 factions being the Old Republic, the Rebellion, Republic, and the Separatist, and the Empire. So 5 factions total for the single-player campaign. And I'd also like to point out now that there's a really good channel on YouTube called For the Banter NI, he's only done a few videos, but he tackled what we would like to see in Star Wars Battlefront, or what he'd like to see in Star Wars Battlefront. His name is Charlie. You should go check him out. I'll put a link down to his channel in the description below. And he talked about some of the things he'd like to see in the game, and actually 2 of the points he touched on being the 5 factions, and something I'll later touch on in the multiplayer. He was is actually pretty much spot on about. So it seems like he's really got his finger on the ball as far as the development for Battlefront, and you could definitely tell he's a passionate Star Wars fan. So I'll be keeping an eye on his channel throughout the year as we go into Battlefront for information, so that maybe I could bring it to you guys or just tell you guys about it over there. And also the last point about the single player I'm going to touch on is that during the campaign, they say you will actually get to play as characters that will be in The Force Awakens. And that's, your main protagonist that you're going to play as. So whether that's going to be like the main character from The Force Awakens, I don't think that'll probably be the case. But they're saying that you will actually play as characters that we're going to see in the films. So that's just another, really nice tie-in that we're going to see along with the plot and everything. So it's going to get melded together very well. Something I'm really excited for, and I really just can't wait for Star Wars Battlefront. But let's go ahead now and jump into the multiplayer details, which they have released, which I'm probably more excited for the multiplayer than I am for the single player. The first one right off the bat is that it's going to not only feature just 64 players like we've seen in Battlefield games, but actually 64 players on each side. Now that sounds pretty mad in my opinion, but if you remember the old Battlefront games, they had loads of people, in the campaign. A lot of it was bots and stuff. But with 64 people on each side, that's going to be a massive undertaking, and it's going to really be interesting to see the level design as to how that's going to fit in so that we can actually have 64 people on a server without it being too crammed and too packed full of people like in one small area. So it's going to be really interesting to see that, and I just can't wait to see how it plays out until we actually get some gameplay and see if it's going to be 64 players on each side. And also I'm curious if the next-gen consoles are actually going to be able to handle that type of server load, because that takes a tremendous amount of CPU power to be able to have 128 people on a server at once. The only game I know of on console that actually ever did this successfully was MAG on the PlayStation 3, which didn't really get that much critical success. I played it for like about a day, and I didn't care for it at all, but it wasn't because they couldn't handle the server sizes. That actually handled it fairly well. It just didn't have great game mechanics. Now, another thing that they're stating is that as far as the multiplayer modes are concerned, now there's nothing confirmed as far as what the modes are going to be, but they have said that certain modes will feature space-to-land battles. So whether that's going to mean you're going to maybe start out in space and then end up on the ground as the match progresses, or are they going to have ground battles going on as well as space battles, which can maybe transition from one to the other. Maybe you're as a ground force, you can go ahead and hop in a TIE fighter or an X-Wing, and then you can go up into space and have dogfights. That sounds like something that would be really, really amazing, and something, with Battlefield and, the jets that they have and how that all works out, I don't think it's really that outlandish of a proposal for them to have in the game, and it's something I'm really going to be keeping my eye on, because it sounds like an amazing feature if that's something they're going to be employing, and if it's something that they can actually do well. Something here that's actually going to be returning from previous Battlefront games, which I wasn't sure if it was going to be in this game, because a lot of people were just expecting this to be a Star Wars skinned Battlefield, but it seems like they actually are trying to reach back into what was in the original Battlefront games and transition it into this one, and they're doing that with this one now with the hero mode. If you remember back in the previous Battlefronts, you could play and work your way up to a certain number of points or a certain streak, and then you could go ahead and you could take control of a hero. So you could be a Jedi, or you could be a Sith Lord, a hero, and then interact in the battle like that. Now they're saying that it'll pretty much work the same way in Star Wars Battlefront that's coming out later this year, where it'll basically be almost like a kill streak, where you'll have to accumulate a certain number of points or a certain number of kills, and then you'll be able to take control of a specific hero of your choosing. And this was the other thing that I was talking about that Charlie over at For the Banter and I touched on in his video. So once again, he's really got his finger on the ball as far as the development of Battlefront goes. So you should definitely check him out. And the last thing for the multiplayer, which is, kind of disheartening depending on your opinion of how Battlefield handled premium content, because it seems like premium is going to be returning for Battlefront, which I really don't see as a big surprise there, but they're saying that the DLC plan for the game will be quote-unquote extremely aggressive, and that pretty much entails that there's going to be at least five DLC expansions that are going to have maps, weapons, vehicles, all new stuff that'll be added in. So it's sounding like it's going to be a lot like Battlefield's premium that we've seen in the past. And we also know that Battlelog is going to be returning for Star Wars Battlefront, so it doesn't really seem like that far-fetched of an idea that they're going to have a premium package to go as well with the main game. But that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy the video. And please let me know down in the comments below, out of the features, we talked about today, or maybe something I didn't touch on, what you're really looking forward to in Star Wars Battlefront the most that maybe they don't have in Battlefield games, or maybe something that they do have in Battlefield that you would like to see brought into Star Wars Battlefront that wasn't there in the past. Let me know down in the comments below, or maybe you just think everything I talked about today, all these rumors aren't really substantiated at all, and you don't think they're actually true. Let me know down below. I really would appreciate that. And don't forget to stick a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're not already. And if you want to help contribute to future videos, or just keep up to date with what I'm doing, you could always follow me on Facebook and Twitter at JokerSlunt. I'll catch you guys next time. Ta-ra.